Nothing happens in this movie. I mean, come on. The only thing it's good for is curing insomnia. Hey, it's me, your old friend Brian, coming to you again from another undisclosed location that I will never reveal, and you'll probably never see me again, talking about today's movie. What the heck is this thing called?
Enys
A nice man, Enys Men is a 2022 psychological analog folk horror movie from Britain, written and directed by Mark Jacobs. This is his second movie after 2018's Bait. The plot is very minimal, but it takes place in 1973 in the south of England, in Cornwall, and we follow one main character who's only identified as the volunteer as she goes through her day-to-day routine, which mostly consists of looking at a small sample of plant life and then reporting on if there are any changes in a notebook. But then as we start to see the same routines play out a little bit faster and faster as it goes on, they become more and more ominous as they slightly change. We start to see characters appear that may or may not exist. Maybe they're just in her mind. But really the story at its heart is about how much it sucks to be British. It was shot on 16mm film. The sound is cruddy on purpose, so it really feels authentic. Definitely similar in the way to those ads that you get on Instagram where it's like, hey guys, you want to add a really cool looking filter to spice up your little Instagram reels there? So this movie definitely falls into that category of movies that I can't understand how anyone could possibly like this. About 30 minutes in, 45 minutes in, I was getting a little worried as to where it was going to go. And yet, I really like this one. There's not a lot of logical sense to be made of this movie, so I think that'll lead a lot of viewers to say it's pretentious or it's art house nonsense, but if you're looking for a film that's going to evoke non-specific emotions that are still pretty strong and guttural and instinctual, this one hits the target. I would say Mark Jenkins had a lot of guts making this movie. It's a real gamble because it's so repetitive, it's so minimal, and I've even seen reviews of this movie where people who liked it even said, it's not the most exciting movie in the world, but I disagree. This movie was exciting in ways that most other movies aren't. It's also just got this it's very English, it's got this real brutalism to it. It actually calls to mind like this would be a great background film to have while you're listening to early industrial acts like Throbbing Gristle or Current 93. Now granted, since the movie is so impenetrable, there's going to be some plot points that feel loose, even though if it's by design. Like for example, there's religious imagery and themes that kind of come in and out, but I never really feel like that was completely paid off. I didn't feel like the main character was having a crisis of faith, for example, so much as she's just not able to let go of some sort of trauma. There will be some who say the fact that she writes in her journal, no change, will be ominous, which it is, but I have the feeling that it's less that she's slowly going insane because there is no change and more that she's really relegated to this daily routine that feels comfortable, and then if there's any slight change in it, it's like a huge revelation and it really messes her up psychologically. And I think it's a good choice to start having these other characters kind of creep in, let their presence known, even though it's never really explained who they are, what they're doing there. Some of it's a little corny, like when they cut to like the miners and stuff, who may or may not be ghosts who are inhabiting Cornwall, from decades ago. But I like the introduction of this young girl who may or may not be a younger version of the main character. I tend to think it's her daughter who she's, wronged in some way or possibly died in a tragic accident there, And taking a chance on watching a movie like this that's so radically different by design is kind of what being a movie fan for me is all about. And I can already hear what you're saying. You're going, hey Brian, that's a great way to excuse away a super boring movie. Also, in order to watch this movie, I had to download a free trial of Hulu, and throughout the first half of the movie there were all these ad breaks, which is pretty unforgivable. This is like a real art movie, so it's not going to end up like most videos I do here on Internet Archive or YouTube after a while. But if you have the patience for it, seek it out. And if this is not your jam, that's okay too. I just ask one thing of my adoring fans. Please, stay sexy.